Seahawks in a game they must have. We'll be back in a moment after this conversion, and they desperately need this game tonight. Here comes Randall Morris for the Seahawks. And Morris hit at the 25-yard line, and he is stopped dead right there. This ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Nissan, builders of technologically advanced cars and trucks for over 50 years. And by today's Gallo, all the best a wine can be. Frank Gifford along with Joe Namath and O.J. Simpson. And it looked rather bleak for the Denver Broncos midway through the second quarter when they were down 17-0. The Seahawks moving up and down the field almost at will. Running Kurt Warner, connecting with Largent and Darrell Turner, and then the Bronco defense tightened up. But the Broncos have not been able to protect Elway in the manner they would like to against the rush of the Seattle Seahawks. So we have the second half underway, and we'll watch David Hughes over the left side. Broncos defense strings it out along the line of scrimmage, and it's Simon Fletcher, the second-round draft pick, and the rookie from Houston, who is in there first for the Broncos. And there is a gain of about a yard by Hughes.
That may be the change the Broncos need to stop this Seahawk attack. They put their fourth lineman in there, Simon Fletcher, only played 3 linebackers that time. So I think they're going to try and stop the run with the 4 linemen and try and put more pressure on him with 4 down linemen.
And there they are again in the 4 down line position. Second down and 9. Craig holds it to the last possible moment. Flips it out to Warner, and he paid dearly as he was really leveled. It was Rulon Jones who really popped him as he released it. Let's take a look at the stats from the first quarter. It was dominated by Seattle. They moved up and down the field. Of course, one of them, a 41-yard touchdown pass from Craig to Darrell Turner, one of the big plays. And then let's now dissolve it, and we'll come to the halftime stats in just a moment as we'll watch the third down and 9 down on the field for the Seahawks. 4 wide receivers. Scansey is in there with Turner and Largent and Byron Walker. Shotgun for the Seahawks. Craig. Largent, yes. And you couldn't cover it any better than Louis Wright covered it. Again, it's that timing pattern we showed you on a split screen in the first half. Craig releasing that ball just as Largent makes the cut to the outside. Just perfect.
Yeah, I don't think any defense could have stopped this pass, even with good pressure. He got the ball on so quickly and threw it so perfectly that you were right, Frank. That was good coverage, too. He's right on the thing. It's just a fine pass. Good timing.
Louis Wright used to play junior college ball, Bakersfield College, went over to San Jose State, #1 draft pick, and back in the Pro Bowl, and this is his 11th year. Kurt Warner in the flat, and Warner works to the 45-yard line for a gain of 3. It'll be 2nd and 7 as Harden was there with Dennis Smith. Dennis Smith also heading for the Pro Bowl in Hawaii, February the 2nd. You saw the first quarter stats a moment ago, and this is how Denver came back, and they actually had the lead in total yards.
And if it wasn't for Elway's ability to improvise, that 174 in passing yardage would be about 24.
And he has been under constant pressure. Second down and about 6. And again, Craig has to dump it off, and he gets it to Warner. And Warner is hit and nailed there first by Dennis Smith. But Craig held it as long as he could, and he finally had to release it in the flat. Jim Ryan was also out there, the outside linebacker, in on the stop. And it'll be 3rd down and a long 6.
Well, that's 2 plays in a row that Denver did what you suggested, Joe. They got a few extra men up to pass rush, and they were smart. They double-teamed the outlet pass, which is Kurt Warner, because, of course, they are aware that it's pretty difficult for one man to tackle Kurt Warner in the open field.
Correction, it's 3rd down and 9. Early moments of the 3rd quarter. Craig from the shotgun. And again, scrambling and in trouble. And almost got it to Largent. And deflected away by Dennis Smith. But again, Craig was getting the pressure that he was not getting in the first half.
And I'll tell you, Dennis Smith is probably the only defensive back in the league that could have block that pass because Dennis Smith is an over 7-foot high jumper, and he had to go all the way up to get a hand on that ball.
At 6'3", that's getting up there.
7'2".
Finzer is on for the punting unit. Vance Johnson is back for Denver. Fine kick by Finzer, a beauty. And Vance Johnson lets it go into the end zone, and the Broncos will have it at the 20-yard line. The Broncos with their first possession of the second half coming up. 57 yards in the second half. Secondary of the Seattle Seahawks that was troubled coming into tonight is hurting even further because Paul Moyer, who had been filling in for an injured Kenny Easley, went out, pinched a nerve in the neck. He will not be back, and the Seahawks are down to, well, they're down to 6 men in the secondary. One of them is rookie Gene Robinson. He is in there. Seahawk bench again. It's been a long season. A year ago, they went to the divisional playoffs against Miami, losing. The year before that, they went to the AFC Championship before they lost to the Raiders. This year, they will be home during the holidays. They would like to be more than 500. However, they could finish 9-7 with a win tonight. On 1st and 10, Sammy Winder tries it on the inside, I presume just to keep things honest for John Elway. Elway under a lot of pressure in that first half. Gerald Wilhite back in there, by the way, number 47. He went out earlier in the game with a slightly sprained knee. So Wilhite is back as a running back for the Broncos, a position which has troubled them much of the year. Gene Lang went out 3 weeks ago. He had their best rushing average per carry. Broken hand. He's on the injured reserve. Winder got 3. It's 2nd down and 7. Johnson is in motion. Vance Johnson. Wilhite. And Wilhite bangs out over the 30-yard line. He'll have a 1st down as Gene Robinson came up to provide the first hit. And there's Seahawk very slow to get up. That's Keith Simpson. And that's yet another defensive back. Simpson came up and was in the backfield and took quite a shot. But I was just talking about the problems they have in that secondary with Ken Easley unable to go. His replacement went out in the second quarter. And let's take a look at it again. Just a power sweep. That was Simpson right there. The lead block provided by Sammy Winder. So Simpson has gone to the sidelines. First down and 10. Good hard running by Wilhite. Ball at the 32-yard line of Denver. Vance Johnson is split left. He's one wide receiver. Off to the top of your screen is Keith Watson. Elway steps back in the pocket, fires complete to Johnson. The ball is loose. Gene Robinson is covering. He never had control of the football. And he was really given a shot. Let's take a look at it from the reverse angle. You get a better picture of it. Here it is, the camera across the field, and we have used that so efficiently. There you'll see it. It looked like he had control of it.
Of course, that was a little slower than it was in actual speed, but it certainly looked like he had control of the ball and was trying to shift it under one arm when he got hit.
John Harris provided the hit, and Gene Robinson covered it. Maybe we'll go back and play at irregular speed. 2nd and 10. Wilhite. He's out over the 45-yard line to the 46, and it's a Denver first down.
Now you're looking at a frustrated Jeff Bryant. He saw that play coming. He didn't overrun the play, and unfortunately, they got position on him, and they got a good gain out of it.
Let's go back and watch that play a moment ago in irregular speed. Elway fires the shot, and there's the hit. It happened so quickly, and the official was right there. He ruled there was no control as John Harris really provided a hit for Vance Johnson. But that was really a questionable call. 48-yard line. Denver keeps it alive. 1st and 10. Oh! offensive line set up to make Mark Cooper eligible.
Oh, look at Coach Reeves pulling out some stops.
And of course, he would have had to have identified himself.
That's right. You know, I guess they're about willing to do anything in this third quarter to get things going. In the past, I'm not big on statistics, but in the last 8 weeks, Denver's been outscored 54-0 in the third quarter.
I would think that'd be reason enough to do something different in the third quarter.
Extra special, huh?
That should get your attention. The first down is inside the 40-yard line. Sammy Winder works the left side down to the 35-yard line. He'll get 3 out of that. Broncos have a drive going now, kept alive by a couple of fine Wilhite runs.
And a questionable call.
And a shot to the offensive guard, who has turned into an offensive tackle, back to an offensive guard, and became a receiver, Mark Cooper. Fast-moving third quarter. Nearly 7 minutes have expired already. Winder, the single setback. Watson is split to the right, top of your screen. Elway went to Clarence Kay, who really was not ready for that shot.
I'm really surprised that they don't use John Moore with the rollout type passes, or else the old floating pocket that Hank Stram and Lenny Dawson, the Kansas City Chiefs, started many years ago. Start to drop back straight and then float to the right or to the left. He moves around so nicely back there, and he can take it upfield. I think they should be utilizing that more often than they have been.
Third down and 7 for Denver. 35-yard line of the Seahawks. And again, keep reminding you, it's a game that Denver must win if they are going to have any chance at all to be in the playoffs. Elway rifles a shot. It's complete. Clint Sampson is there. Now they say no. He had it right in there. Elway paid for it. It was Harris on the hit again of Clint Sampson. Take a look at it from the end zone. An idea of what Elway was confronted with. John Harris popping, but Clint Sampson just did not handle the football. Had a lot on it, but Elway had to put a lot on it.
Certainly a catchable ball, but I guess if you tried to catch balls with Elway on the offseason without shoulder pads on, you can leave some bruises on your chest.
You're supposed to catch them in your hands, aren't you?
Denver will forego what would be about a 52-yard field goal, and they have Chris Norman, the punter, on. And a fake. That was thrown out of bounds. And not even close. Ricky Hundley, the intended receiver. Chris Norman threw it out of bounds, and Seattle will get the football back. They'll have it at their own 35-yard line. When we come back to the Kingdome in just a moment. Kicker that can get up to about 55 yards, you get yourself in a lot of trouble. And Carlos, his career best was 50 yards, so Dan Reeves decided to let Chris Norman put it up for grabs, and Ricky Hundley put on quite a show. He was trying to keep his feet in bounds, but he was out of bounds by a couple of yards. Carlos' best 2 career field goals have been only 50 yards, and he's 0 for 5 from 50 yards or more this season. Kurt Warner, left side. Good running by Warner. Warner's out to the 43-yard line. He'll get 8 out of that. It'll be 2nd down and 2. Midway through the third quarter, the Denver Broncos in a must-win situation with the Seattle Seahawks. There is no tomorrow for the Broncos if they lose this one tonight. And automatically all the 3 AFC contenders in the East would become in the playoffs. And the division, of course, up for grabs on Sunday. 2nd down and 3. Rick Parros, former Denver Bronco, is in the backfield for the Seattle Seahawks. This is Parros. And Parros, who was working for the Broncos at the beginning of the season, went on injured reserve. They tried to bring him back, and Seattle claimed him. Gets the first down for the Seahawks at the 49-yard line. Let's pause 5 seconds and allow our stations to identify themselves.
This is KOMO TV4.
Frank Gifford, Joe Namath, O.J. Simpson. Watching a game that almost got out of control for the Denver Broncos when the Seahawks went up 17-0 midway through the second quarter. It is 17-10 now. It's a must-win game for the Denver Broncos to stay alive for a playoff spot. 1st and 10 Seahawks. Kurt Warner dancing and juking at the line of scrimmage, and Gets to the 47-yard line. A gain of 3. It'll be 2nd down and 7. There is our scoring summary. Greg with a perfect shot to open it to Darrell Turner. That made it 7-0. Then Johnson from 29 yards out to make it 10-0. Then it went 17-0 before the Broncos really got untracked. 2nd and 7. The Seahawks on the Broncos 47-yard line. Kurt Warner, or rather Rick Parros, with a good block out front. Kurt Warner with a fine block. Parros cut it back, ran into the traffic, and was held to about a 3-yard pickup. It'll be 3rd down and 3.
Well, it appears the Seahawks have changed their offensive philosophy here in this drive. They haven't even tried to pass the football. They're trying to run the football at Denver right now.
A little of Chuck Knox's old philosophy of ball control, ground chuck. You can call it 3 yards and a cloud of astroturf here.
4 wide receivers. Trying to come back was Largent. He would have been short at the 1st down in any event, so we will see the punting unit for Seattle. Largent, if you were not with us earlier, did a lot of things tonight. He became the 5th player in NFL history to reach 10,000 yards receiving with his first reception tonight. He's caught a pass in 123 consecutive games. Record, by the way, is held by Harold Carmichael at 127, so he's threatening that. Set a new single-season receiving mark for the Seahawks with 76. It's been a phenomenal career for Steve Largent. Finzer to punt. Wilhite is back for Denver. Finzer is looking for the corner. He'll catch some of it. They'll mark it inside the 20, and they'll mark it close to the 13-yard line. Now they walk it out near the 15. The crowd doesn't like it. Denver has the football back. 5:07 remaining in the 3rd quarter. They trail 17-10. Look for some of the finest fans in all of pro football. And the Denver Broncos, I might add, too. These 2 teams are sold out, well, every game. Broncos go way back, and Seattle, they've been sold out since this franchise was formed back in '76. Denver has the football, 1st and 10 at their own 14-yard line. Sammy Winder piled up behind the line of scrimmage. Jeff Bryant crossed the line of scrimmage very quickly, along with Joe Nash.
Gerald Wilhite found himself face-to-face with Joe Nash, 1 yard in the backfield as a blocker, and he says, hey, I know he is not my assignment.
I know this was not designed this way. Loss of a couple. It'll be 2nd down and 12. Watson in motion for Denver. Draw play. That's Vance Johnson. Gets some of the loss back and a couple of more yards, so it's going to be 3rd down and about 8.
O.J., I would have loved to have seen you had the football in your hands that time. I know Vance Johnson's fast. He's a pretty good runner, but if he'd have made that one little break right there, he'd had 15, 20 yards.
Yeah, it certainly looked like the play was designed well. It was set up by those fakes earlier, play-action passes, and it appeared as if he'd have cut up a little sooner. He would have been, pretty much off to the race.
20, that's right. 4 wide receivers for Denver. They'll work from the shotgun. It's 3rd down and 8. The crowd is into it for the Seahawks. This time Elway had the time, and he fires to Sampson, who has the 1st down. He's out to just about the 35-yard line, but Dave Brown laying way off Sampson, and for the first time Elway was comfortable back there in the pocket.
Oh, he had plenty of time, just a regular drop back and an out pattern about 15 yards deep, wide open. Hey, listen, if Sampson catches the last ball that was thrown to him, maybe Denver's on the board again.
This is what I alluded to earlier in the game when Bryant and Jacob, Green, and Nash were all coming like stormtroopers in there. That takes its toll after a while against a quarterback like Elway, who keeps rolling out of the pocket, and you have to chase him. That's Sammy Winder over the right side, again, just getting that defensive line's attention. We're going to throw the ball. We're not going to run it. But you got to play us honest, and we're going to run it every now and then. Joe Nash in on that stop.
I don't know. I kind of believe in maybe slowing that defensive line down with a draw and an occasional screen. They haven't thrown enough screens, in my opinion, yet tonight. The running plays they're running up the middle really aren't getting any yardage to speak of.
At the 37-yard line, it's second down and 8. 2:37 remaining in the third quarter. Elway again has a time, and he just let one rip that nobody's going to be close to. I think Elway thought he was going to be much more crowded than he was. It'll be third down and 8. Tomorrow on ABC's Wide World of Sports, America's Olympic boxing medalists continue to battle in the professional ranks. Mark Breland, Tyrell Biggs, and Evander Holyfield, all undefeated. They're going to fight live, except here on the West Coast. The exciting action will begin for you tomorrow at a special time, 4 o'clock Eastern and Pacific, 3 o'clock Central, and what records they have. They're all undefeated. Breland, he's 7-0. Biggs is 6-0. Holyfield is 7-0. And they have 13 KOs between them. Third down and 8. Wilhite is back there with Elway in the shotgun. Elway, Butch Johnson, and the former Dallas Cowboy and Houston Oiler comes down with it at midfield. First down yardage for Denver.
Yeah, but if they keep waiting till third down to get these passes in, it's going to catch up to them. The last 2 series of downs, they've had to make the big play on third down. They're not going to make a living that way.
You know, Joe, it is Denver football, though. You watch them, and I said it earlier, they just keep you hanging by your toenails, your fingernails. You keep biting them, and somehow they're always scrambling. Somehow, at the end of every game, with rare exception, they are in it.
Well, if they run it up the middle on first down this time, I'm going to throw a flag.
All right. Midfield, 2:21 remaining in the third quarter. Seahawks leading 17-10. First down and 10, Denver at midfield. This is Wilhite. Another Denver first down. At the 37-yard line, Bruce Schultz and Terry Taylor defensively there. Little play action fake intended to show Seattle that they were going to bring it up the middle, and then Elway with a little half roll. That's what you were calling for earlier.
I love it. You know, I'd like to see who'd get tired first, Elway rolling out or that defensive line chasing him.
Well, on that play, it showed that the defensive line was a little tired because Jacob Green had a bead on Elway, but his legs just wouldn't support him. He just fell right down.
I think the jury is in as to who is getting a little tired chasing John Elway. And it's those big 250 and 60-pound defensive linemen. Elway is 300 yards on the night already, 18 of 29. Fleetvicker. Elway looked deep. His deep man, Sampson, was not available, so he tried to go to Watson. Watson was well covered. Good defensive coverage on the part of the Seahawks all over the field.
And a smart play by John Elway. You know, a lot of folks back home might not understand how good a play this was, both defensively and offensively. It was an interesting call trying to catch Seattle off balance. They didn't. Seattle played it beautifully, and Elway did not try to force the ball. He threw it away that time. So play didn't gain any yardage, but it was a pretty good play both offensively and defensively.
Steve Sewell, the rookie #1 draft pick from Oklahoma, is in the lineup on second down and 10. Elway will go from the shotgun. Elway goes underneath the Sewell. He holds onto the football, but only gets a couple of yards out of it to the 35, and it will keep the Broncos and John Elway, who made a good move just to even get rid of that football. It'll keep them in deep pass situation.
And I'm telling you, this defensive line of the Seahawks is beginning to show a little frustration. They had Elway on the run. They hit him. They knocked him down. They turn around, and it's a completed pass. Grant you just a few yards, but the pass was still completed. Jacob Green and Jeff Bryant looked at each other and just threw their hands up in the air.
Elway is now over 4,000 yards total offense for the season. I told you earlier he is the leading rusher in the NFL among quarterbacks. Third down and 8. He'll do that to you. And that's remarkable. Sampson bobbles the ball and is ruled incomplete. But that was kind of a special little effort there by Elway.
And here we are again in the same situation we were the last time when Carlos couldn't try the field goal from 35 yards out, a 52-yard kick.
Well, Frank, you said this was a special effort by Elway. In a sense, it's typically Elway because this is when he's at his very, very best, and somehow they got to design a way to get him to do that on a normal down situation.
We need to design a way to get Sampson to hold on to the football.
Again, Denver apparently not faith in Rich Carlos to hit it from 52 yards out. John Elway stays in on fourth down. apparently they don't have a whole lot of faith in their punter, Chris Norman, to get it out of bounds somewhere down deep. 4th down and 8. Will Height. Super call. Seattle had everyone covered deep. Will Height was out there all by himself. Gets inside the 20-yard line. Great execution by the Broncos and a fine call by head coach Dan Reeves.
And that play, Joe, that play worked because Keith Bishop, number 54, was able to get outside and block Michael Jackson, number 55. This is Jackson's responsibility. You'll see Jackson just go down right there at the line of scrimmage.
That's a quick screen left. It was a quick screen all the way, and Keith Bishop did a nice job getting out there to block Jackson.
And another scoreless 3rd quarter for the Broncos, but they are definitely on the prowl. They have a 1st down. They are inside the 20-yard line of the Seahawks, and we'll be back after this from our station. It's been that way for a week. And a sellout crowd once again in the Kingdome. It's been that way since 1976. And the Seahawks out of the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. Have a 17-10 lead over the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos have a 1st down and 10 inside the 20-yard line of the Seahawks. We begin the 4th quarter. That's Watson in motion. This is Sewell, the rookie from Oklahoma, with a good move back inside to get to the 15-yard line. Gain of almost 5. It'll be 2nd down and 5. And again, we show you the importance of what happens. If Denver wins, the Broncos will be a wild card. If the Jets or the Patriots lose, the Jets, of course, playing Cleveland. The Patriots are playing Cincinnati. Now, if Denver loses, the Broncos are eliminated. The Dolphins, the Jets, and the Patriots are all in. And the Eastern Division of the AFC will be decided with the action over the weekend. 2nd down and 5. Elway into the end zone. That's Watson. They're saying no. And Steve Watson is not arguing, so it will be 3rd down and 5.
We may be beating a dead horse here, but it is amazing how Elway can throw that ball running the way he's running. I mean, that ball was still pretty much on the money.
He had a lot of practice at Stanford. Ran for his life there. Look at him again. He rolls out, and rolling this way, Joe, it's not the easiest way to throw the ball with that much velocity.
It's the most difficult way to throw the ball for a right-hander because you have a natural tendency not to get the left shoulder under your chin. You have to use the left side. John gets his left side under his chin. That's the reason he has velocity on the ball.
3rd down and 5. Elway rifles a shot. Johnson. And Vance Johnson steps out of bounds near the 5-yard line. It'll be 1st down, goal to go. And this rookie from Arizona, who Dan Reeves inserted as a starter into the lineup ahead of Butch Johnson when we covered them a few weeks ago against the 49ers, has really developed. We talked about his athletic talent, his great speed, a 10.28 for the 100 meters, a world-class long jumper, but he's also a fine football player. All Pac-10 as a sophomore when he was a tailback for the University of Arizona. He's caught 4 tonight for 46 yards, and they've been key plays. And he has the Broncos with a 1st down, goal to go near the 5-yard line. Kurt Warner on the sidelines. They've been working Warner hard throughout the game. Nathan Poole, 34. Steve Sewell, 30. The setbacks for the Broncos. Watson is in motion. Sewell. And Sewell down close to the 2-yard line. Gene Robinson was there first for Seattle. Then he picked up a little help from his friends. It'll be 2nd down, goal to go. Broncos do not have a running back averaging over 4 yards a carry. And the running back with the best average is unavailable on the injured reserve. Gene Lang, their big fullback. Dan Reeves would dearly love to get him back. Second down, goal to go. Will Height and Sewell of the setback. Into the end zone is Gerald Will Height. And the Broncos are a conversion away from tying this game up. Rich Carlos comes on. And the Kingdome in Seattle is quieted considerably. Broncos have hung in there. They absolutely trounced throughout the first quarter, midway through the second quarter, and now they have battled back, and they have begun to take charge of this football game. Good move by Wilhite. Back into the grain, into the end zone, and Carlos is out to tie it up.
That was a six-pack of soda pop, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe the other guys have their bags packed. They're ready to go home for the holidays, you know.
Carlos ties it up at 17 with 13:20 remaining in the game. And again, it's a game in which Denver can only stay alive for the playoffs if they win tonight. We'll be back. We're starting to get control of this football game. It could be Seattle might be thinking about the holidays because they're going to be home for that. Or it's just that Denver has got to pull back together again. That drive went 85 yards in 16 plays, and that just absolutely delights any coach. Takes a lot out of the opposition also. Carlos to kick off. High kick. And Randall Morris will bring it out from the 5. To the 24-yard line, where it'll be 1st and 10 for Seattle. 64,000 plus on hand tonight. Later tonight on Nightline, Ted Koppel talks with Senator Ted Kennedy, who says he still wants to be president, but not in 1988. That's tonight, right here on Nightline. That, of course, will be following your late local news in many parts of the country. 1st down and 10, Seattle at the 23-yard line. Dave Craig, the intended receiver, Darrell Turner, Louis Wright, and Tony Lilly were both there defensively for the Broncos. Now this Bronco defense was looking like a different defense than we watched throughout the first half.
Well, Darrell Turner's making him look good, too. He dropped that last pass. Of course, I hear the fans booing a little bit. That's about his 3rd or 4th drop this game. But that ball was thrown behind him slightly. But, you know, a professional receiver, I have to believe when he gets both hands on the football, he's supposed to catch it more times than he drops it.
2nd down and 10, and in a situation like this, when the other team starts to get things pulled together, and we're going to have the ball changed, I believe. Senator Blair Bush unhappy with something about the football. They bring in another one. I started to say when Seattle starts to sag, and I've watched them over the years, particularly the great years of Steve Large, that they usually like to get the ball to him. He can put the juice back into their offense. A special player. There are players like that. Craig, flag is down, but that's picked off by Mike Harden.
You put pressure on quarterbacks, and they do strange things.
Dennis Smith, the Pro Bowl safety man, put the pressure on Dave Craig on the safety blitz. And Craig threw it right into Mike Harden.
I'm sorry, Frank. Watch number 28. This is really Kurt Warner's man, and he didn't realize it until he ran by Dennis Smith that Dennis Smith was rushing the quarterback. You see him come back in your screen trying to catch up to him.
He did recognize it after it was too late, and he was also called for holding. Well, watch number 28, as O.J. said. Dennis Smith is number 49. He sees 49 inside, and he just grabs it.
I'd say that was holding.
Big break for the Broncos.
Or snatching.
They're at the 26-yard line, 1st down and 10. Harden gets the turnover. Winder and Poole the setbacks. Winder right up the middle. And this time Winder will get about 6 yards out of that. It'll be 2nd and 4. Jeff Bryant is on the bottom of that pile. Denver Broncos, in case you joined us late, we're down 17-0 at one point. They're kind of used to that in Denver. Maybe not 17-0, but they've been behind so many times. It's almost part of their game plan. Then they always scratch, and they're always there at the end. Winder again. Close to a 1st down is Sammy Winder. Winder ended tonight with 680 yards rushing. Of course, he had the 1,000-yard season of a year ago, and was the only Bronco that made it to the Pro Bowl.
You know, earlier today I was interviewed by a writer from Denver, and he was saying that I think the Broncos had the respect around the league that he felt they deserved. And I said, you know what, I really don't, because most people can't figure out how they win week in and week out. Statistically, they're not impressive, but somehow they do the things you have to do to win.
3rd down 1, that's Poole. Bouncing off one tackle. consecutive running plays, and it's a first down for Denver at the 13-yard line of Seattle.
You know, Jay, I have to agree with you, but I've always known that these guys that write about these football games don't know very much about them.
Joe.
It's a good thing you don't read your write-ups. You're going to get some beauties now, baby.
So what's new?
First and 10. Chuck Fairbanks, the winner wherever he's been. But out of the playoffs this year as he watches Chuck Knox, brother, and Steve Sewell over the left side. Chuck Knox was your coach, wasn't he, in 2 occasions, Joe?
Oh, yeah. Chuck actually was the man who was responsible for the New York Jets drafting me back in '65. And we worked together the first 3 years at New York. And then again, he was my coach while I was with the Rams one year. And I've said this many, many times. The players love him, and justifiably. He's a man's man who's a very honest, hard-working man. That's why they love him.
Second down and 9. And there was movement. Bruce Schultz is pointing an accusing finger, saying that he was drawn off.
Well, if 63 was lined up as a tight end that time, he's allowed to go ahead and change his stance. And he did catch a pass earlier.
Ball start, number 63. Okay. Offense.
Uh-oh, argue with him.
He is arguing also.
Sure, if he's in a tight end position, he can shift.
I find those arguments usually fall on pretty deaf ears as they walk it off. So now it'll be second down and about 17. I'll call it 18 as they have walked it off to the 16-yard line. Gerald Wilhite, single setback. Elway working from the shotgun. Clock is moving. We're down close to 10 minutes remaining in the game. Johnson had it right in his hands. Elway did everything to catch it for him.
I don't know how many dropped balls have we had tonight. Both teams, you count them up, we have to have had eight or nine dropped passes.
Well, that was another case of a guy trying to run before he caught the ball, and with the velocity that Elway places on the ball, I think you got to, whatever you do, catch it first.
What about Turner's case for Seattle? We can't blame it on velocity there.
Third down and long once again. Watson goes left. Butch Johnson split out to the right. Elway looking into the end zone and throws it out of the back of the end zone. Clint Sampson was there. Steve Watson were both back there. And now we'll see Carlos to try and untie this football game. Broncos have never had the lead tonight. Seattle jumped out to a 17-0 lead.
Seattle's defense has to feel really good about stopping Denver at this point. Denver had the momentum going this entire half, and getting the turnover in the field position that they did, just holding them to possibly 3 or possibly no points at all is a big tribute to the defense of Seattle.
34-yard attempt. Carlos was hit earlier from 25 yards out. He was 21-35 coming into the night. Carlos hooks it left. And the effort, the turnover is wasted. We'll be back in a moment. We can beat the fog in Seattle. It has really been something up here. Rams and the Raiders are looking forward to it, guys.
It's not foggy down there. It's been 85 degrees most of the week. Dickerson and Allen, two of my favorite runners.
I remember some of those giant jet battles, and I promise you the Rams and the Raiders are going to be hot come Monday night.
First and 10 Seattle. We are tied at 17. 10 minutes remaining in the game as Kurt Warner works over the right side out to about the 23-yard line. Gain of 3 for second down and 7. Chuck Knox calling the plays.
Is he calling the plays? I was going to say, this is typical of Chuck Knox. I mean, on both teams, as you mentioned earlier, Frank, they don't have a back averaging 4 yards a carry. And I would think that Seattle would open it up right now. In the beginning of the game, they had a lot of success throwing the ball downfield, and they've gone to that 3 yards of play. And it hasn't done much for them since they got those first 17 points.
Yeah, it's strange. They have tightened up.
Second down and 6 as they gave Warner the mark up to the 25.
my legitimate argument there. Dennis did get his hands on Turner about 15 yards downfield, which is supposedly a no-no. But meantime, if you're going to give Craig that kind of time back there to pass, he's going to complete one or two of them. They need to keep putting pressure on Craig if they want to stop the Seattle passing attack.
Denver again needs a win tonight. And then they also need help on Sunday from Cincinnati. Cincinnati playing New England, and or Cleveland, who will play the Jets. Third and long. Craig again with a lot of time. Trying to get the ball to Largent. This time we'll get the flag as Louis Wright was driving into the back of Steve Largent. Mike Harden was also there, but I think it'll go against Louis Wright. Referee once again is Chuck Heberling. We'll look at it again. Louis Wright right up there gets the shot he's allowed within the 5 yards. Now he just crawls all over him there. And the first down for Seattle is out at the 30-yard line.
I didn't really agree with that call. I thought the ball was by him. Really, that was a tough call.
Turner goes right, Largent goes left. Gets the first down to the 42-yard line. It's been an up and down season for Dave Craig. I mentioned earlier in the games they have won 8 of them. He has passed for 64%. In the games in which they have lost, he has passed for 44%, and he is fairly hot tonight. That was a 13-yard pickup by Craig. Craig now is 13 for 28, 148 yards. Did have the one error he threw away through the interception, but Denver cannot capitalize on it a few moments ago. And Seattle is on the move once again. Warner back into Rulon Jones. He'll lose about a yard. Clock ticking away. We're tied at 17. We have less than 9 minutes.
Well, a team that lives with their defense, as Denver has for so many years, they have to feel like it's in their hands right now. We have a tie ball game with 8:30 left to go. The Denver defense must feel like they have to stop this Seattle bunch. I mean, it's their responsibility now to make it to the playoffs.
And, of course, Seattle coached by Chuck Knox, a coach who hates more than anything else the turnover. Craig couldn't get it loose. And just as we talked about the defense, the blitz was on. This is what they do as well as any team in football. They brought Dennis Smith, and also in there, big Rulon Jones. It'll be 3rd down and 10. Rulon Jones on his way to the Pro Bowl for Denver.
That Pro Bowl is going to be a fun game. I haven't been to Hawaii in a long time, but just being able to watch the ball players, the quality of the ball players in that kind of a game has got to be a thrill. It's going to be a thrill for me, for sure.
It sure changed when they moved it to Hawaii. 2 years ago, the players didn't even want to play in it. Now they make a big deal out of it. Wives, sweethearts, and everything invited. Not necessarily together, but it makes quite a happening. 3rd down and 10. Gets it to Walker, and Aaron Walker will have a first down for Seattle near the 41-yard line of Denver. Craig now with 2 big plays on this drive. The 13-yard sprint for a first down. That time almost underhand, getting the ball when he was in trouble to Walker for the first down. Just does get it in there. That one could have been picked off by Randy Robbins, or certainly deflected. He just could not quite get there. 1st and 10, Seattle. Here's Warner. Warner breaks back. Kurt Warner to the 3-yard line. A great run by Warner. Hit at the line of scrimmage, broke it back against the grain, kicked it into gear, and more than the run, I'm just glad to see him doing this again after that knee reconstruction from that injury a year ago.
I agree with you totally, Frank. It's a little what we call a 26. The player is designed to go off tackle. Kurt does what he used to do quite often. Cut back. And here's what surprised me, at the ability to run away virtually from two people. And this is something that he's been unable to give this team this year. But next year, I believe when he spends this offseason running and getting a little fluidity back to his game, you'll see Kurt Warner doing this quite often again.
38-yard pickup. Warner has 89 yards on the night, and that's his longest run thus far this season. First down, goal to go, Seattle. Warner, the crowd wanted him to get it, and he takes it to just about a foot outside. Warner came in as a rookie phenomenon in 1983 when he rolled for nearly 1,500 yards, averaging nearly 4.5 yards. And of course, that terrible injury at the beginning of last season, the very opening game of last season. But he has made a remarkable comeback. It's second down, goal to go. Warner. And he's held out of the end zone.
That's reject city right there.
Take this.
How does it feel when you go over a pile like that and just boom, sudden stop?
Well, on this play, he didn't know exactly where he was going. He was running up to the line of scrimmage. I don't think he was thinking about jumping until he got there. And he got there, he had nothing to do. He tried to follow his fullback over the top, and nothing was there.
Steve Busick was there, number 58, and he met him. There's a loss on the play of about a foot. Third down, goal to go. Denver can be very tough down here.
Yeah, Ed, David Hughes shouldn't have jumped.
Remember the 49ers? Busick again, and Warner again does not get in. It'll be fourth down, goal to go.
Now then, you're out of the playoffs. What do? Do you go for field goal or go for touchdown? Does it make a difference to Seattle here?
Warner now has carried the ball 4 consecutive times.
All right.
I wonder what they're thinking in New England and New York right now. If I was in New England or New York, I would be saying kick the field goal.
And even Miami, all 3 of the AFC East teams, if Denver loses tonight, have qualified for the playoffs. Fourth down, goal to go. They'll have to hurry to get it off. Warner, this time he's in. Listen to the crowd. You know, I think there was a little method on the part of Chuck Knox. He just kept giving this ball to Warner, and I think it was saying, Warner, you're going to believe in yourself. You are all the way back. And he got it in. 92 yards now for Kurt Warner. And Norm Johnson on for the conversion. A lot of time remaining. 5:20. High snap. But Gail Gilbert, the backup quarterback, the rookie from California, got it down quickly. And let's take a look at Warner once again, going over the top. 5 times in a row. Juice, he had to be a little tired. But he pans over. No one was there. And Warner gets into the end zone. Has the lead. Vance Johnson is back along with Steve Sewell, the 2 rookies. Sewell from Oklahoma, Johnson from Arizona, both of them with fine speed. Johnson, a world-class sprinter. It'll be Van Johnson, but Sewell will hold him into the end zone. Now Denver will have the football back at their own 20-yard line. Game, of course, dramatically affecting the AFC East. Miami, New England, the Jets would all advance to the playoffs tonight with the Denver loss, and Denver right now with 5:15 remaining. The 7 points down.
Well, I hope
they usually are in the games they play.
I hope they don't run the ball up the middle. Right now, with 5:15 left on the clock, I know it's a lot of time, but John Elway, they ought to utilize his capabilities of rolling out, dropping back, sprinting one way or the other. Throw the football. Get back in the game now. Don't worry about running the ball.
On first down, Elway, play action. Trying to get it to Kay. It's incomplete and almost picked off. It'll be second down and 10, and Terry Taylor struggling to get to his feet. Elway, by the way, has shattered all the Denver single season records. Most of those records were his. He shattered the record for attempts, completions, yardage. And as I mentioned earlier, he's also rushed for over 250 yards. Over 4,000 yards tonight in total offense. But he will give you a thrill. He likes to take it right down to the end. Second down and 10. Elway almost ripped the hands off Vance Johnson.
Vance was falling down before the ball got to him.
That one had some smoke on it. Down the line, you know that Elway, who has learned so much in 3 years, 3 young years here, is going to learn to take a little pace off that ball. Very important. The receiver coming across the middle.
You're speaking as a receiver now, Frank.
Well, it hurts. I caught a bunch of them, and they're smart.
That's right. You caught him, though, right?
Third and 10. Blitz Johnson. Yes. Seahawks were saying no as Johnson caught that ball. They were saying he trapped it out at the 33-yard line. The official right there, and his first down, Denver. And once again, the Broncos take it all the way down to third down and long yardage before they get it.
Now there's a key catch by a veteran receiver, Butch Johnson, who might just be the clutch man in this game. Butch has been around 9 years. He started out fast this season, but then slacked off. But he's one of your clutch football players.
That's 2 tonight, Joe, and coming into tonight, he did not have a reception in the last 5 weeks. He's made 2 big third down plays for them. Elway, a lot of time and no receiver. The linemen must be exhausted. They have got to be. All alone is Watson. Elway danced around back there for maybe 15 seconds. The defensive linemen were exhausted. He fired downfield to Watson, who knows Steve Elway. He didn't give up on him.
Well, there's really not much to talk about. Well, there is. You know, when you give any quarterback this much time back there to find a receiver, he's going to find one that's open. And when you have a strong arm like Elway, he can get it 60, 75 yards downfield.
And they just brought a new dimension to this game. Dance is around there forever. You saw big number 79, Jacob Green. He'd been down twice and still trying to pursue him. And you can imagine how tired Jacob Green must be. And this guy will exhaust the defensive pass rush. Great effort by Watson to keep alive down there.
Well, that was typical John Elway at Stanford. He'd run around and throw that ball 50, 60 yards downfield. Poor Jeff Bryant was beaming right down on Elway. And Elway timed his spin out of that perfectly.
First down, goal to go. Winder battling down close to the 2-yard line. It'll be second down, goal to go. Let's take a look at Watson on that previous play. He sprints down the right side, picks up the coverage there from Terry Taylor. Now he looks back and he sees Elway in trouble. Now he has been here before with Elway. He knows that Elway can, in all probability, stay alive, and he just stays on the move, giving himself plenty of room, and there he was. Boy, and he made sure he handled it too.
I'm surprised that Taylor and Harris both didn't respect the strength of Elway's arm more and not allow that man to get behind.
Well, you know, Terry, number 20, was playing zone, and he should have yelled over to John Harris that here comes a guy, and he didn't, and Harris didn't see him until he was behind him.
Second down, goal to go. Well, inside the 1-yard line as John Elway has his first career 400-yard game. His career high was 353 yards against New Orleans earlier this year. He's over that. He's 22 of 41, 405 yards tonight. And we have more than 3 minutes remaining, and there is an injured Denver Bronco.
It's number 47, Will Height. He came into the game with a bad ankle. He seems to be holding that ankle now. He missed the last 3 games because of it.
He also went out early in the game with a twisted knee, so Will Height has been struggling all night. You ever had a bad ankle? You know, after you get it well enough to play, well, every now and then you have to pop an adhesion or two, and it feels like you've injured it all over again. Now Will Height looks like he's going to be all right. I think we'll see him again.
What a big play coming up. 3rd and goal, 1.5 feet. The season's on the line for Denver.
And they're down at the moment 24-17. Quiet kingdom here in Seattle for the moment. Now you'll hear it start to build. Who was a starter at inside linebacker for the Seahawks a year ago, lost his job to Freddie Young. He just made a great play for the Seahawks.
It's really an interesting call here because this is the only type of play when you know you're going to go for it on 4th down, another yard to go, that you can lose yardage on a running play. They almost got it in, but they really, in actuality, lost about a foot on that play. They're lucky they didn't lose more than that.
4th down, goal to go. Will Height is back in. It'll be Will Height and Sewell, the setbacks. Could be the playoff for Denver. Sewell is in, the rookie from Oklahoma. Good football game. We're glad you're with us. We hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. I know we can count on the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets watching. As we look at it one more time. Got a good lead block from Will Height. Keith Butler battled his way through it, but Will Height had Butler covered enough. Sewell had a shot at the end zone, and he made the most of it.
He sure did. He has that wiry type of body, much like Marcus Allen, that he's able to give a little bit. A stockier guy may not have gotten into the end zone on that play.
Carlos to tie us up once again. We'll get out of here. It's a lot of fog, however, in the entire northwestern part of the nation. Most flights were sent to Portland or Spokane, Vancouver over the past few days. We're set to go now. Tied at 24. Carlos hits it, and Randall Morris will bring it out. Morris with a fine run gets out close to the 33-yard line. Good field position for Seattle. Mike Harden hustled down there defensively for Denver. And out come the Seahawks. They're not playing like a team. Well, if you're not familiar with the type of people that play this game, you might suspect that with nothing on the line, Seattle might let up a little bit tonight. That certainly has not been the case. They are a very prideful team. They have come a long way under Chuck Knox over the past 3 years. 1st down and 10, Seattle. Craig almost gets that picked off by Dennis Smith. And he can jump. O.J. was touching on it a while ago. He was a 7-foot high jumper heading for the Pro Bowl this year, and he's been all over the field tonight.
And well, what made that play also was the defensive pressure that Denver put on Craig. Any quarterback is going to have a tough time throwing the football with pressure. They need to put pressure on Craig right now. Give him time, and he's going to find a receiver. They should come with an all-out blitz, or at least send 5 guys. Try and get pressure back on Craig. He's not that fine a passer with the pressure on him.
Well, it's been their trademark over the years. When you get down towards the final minutes, that defense really gets tough. Trying to get the ball out to Scansey. Steve Wilson was defending. We're going to pause 5 seconds and allow our stations and friends along the line to identify themselves.
You're watching KOMO TV4.
Greg Gifford, O.J. Simpson, Joe Namath watching a seesaw game that opened up with the Seahawks taking a 17-0 lead over the Denver Broncos. The Broncos battled back. They had the lead for a moment. And now the Seahawks have tied it up at 24. We have 2:16 remaining in the game, in a game that the Denver Broncos cannot afford to lose. If they do, they're out of the playoffs. No chance at all. Even if they win tonight, they are also going to have to look for help from the AFC Eastern Division. They are going to need a Cincinnati win over New England or a win over the Jets by Cleveland. Scansey on the sidelines. Limped off. Ray Butler has replaced Scansey. Number 83. 3rd down and 10. Craig trying to get the ball to Butler. That'll be 4th down, and it was Steve Wilson doing the job once again. A job that he did a few moments ago on Scansey on the very same play. So apparently they wanted to work on Wilson, and he was up to the task. That brings out the punter, Dave Fenzer. And Vance Johnson will drop back for Denver. Tough football game. Dolphins looking on, the Jets looking on, the Patriots looking on. The Patriots will be in the playoffs if they defeat Cincinnati on Sunday, or if Denver loses tonight, as I mentioned. Additionally, they will join the division, win the division title if they defeat Cincinnati, and both the Jets and the Dolphins lose. And here comes Johnson. And to about the 24-yard line. And I thought there was a flag down. It was a piece of paper, but it was a flag, and there is an illegal man downfield.
Yeah, they want to make him kick that over. That was a fine punt.
Number 53 offense illegally down the field. 5 yards, 4th down.
Well, they'll kick again. I'll tell you about the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins can clinch the division title with a victory over Buffalo on Sunday in their home, or if all 3 AFC East contenders lose. If the Dolphins don't take the division crown, there will still be a wild card entry unless the following unlikely scenario takes place. Miami loses, Denver, the Jets, and New England all win, and the margins of the Denver win and the Miami loss total 39 points or more. Now, we didn't want to get into that at halftime. That is a little complex and a little remote.
Well,
Are you trying to say Buffalo can't win by
I was going to say, the man that knows Buffalo.
Hey, man.
No, I'm talking about all the circumstances that would be necessary to bring that about.
Hey, Buffalo can do it.
By 39.
Buffalo.
4th down again. Fenzer back. Short kick. Johnson calls for the fair catch and executes at the 39-yard line. And with 1:55 remaining, we'll get the 2-minute warning. But the Broncos have great field position. They also have 3 timeouts. This stadium is built for $67 million. Opened in 1976 and is located right downtown. A beautiful facility, kind of no frills, but it certainly is a fine facility. There's Carlos. It could fall on his shoulders as the Broncos have good field position. 1st and 10, the ball at their own 40-yard line. From the shotgun, John Elway. There's a middle screen to Sewell. Sewell still on his feet inside the 35-yard line, the 33-yard line, and Elway was really shaken up. And I think this time he might be hurt.
The second time they've used that middle screen this game, and it's worked both times. You're right about Elway, though, Frank. It looks like he is shaken up. He can barely stand on his own 2 feet.
He wears a brace on that left knee, and that appears to be what is bothering Elway. Let's take a look. He was under great pressure again by Jacob Green coming from the left side. And there again. Oh, ooh, it comes in low on that knee. That knee has a brace on it. This happened to Elway earlier in the year, and there you see the completion of the run. But the concern right now on the part of the Broncos is for John Elway, who is being helped off the field. That is his bad knee. He does wear a brace, and he took quite a shot.
But before he left the game, he appears to have the Broncos in just about field goal range.
And there is his replacement, Gary Kubiak. For the season, 2 of 5. That's all the action he has seen. 61 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. But he can get it done. We saw him in a preseason game against the 49ers when John Elway struggled against the 49ers. Kubiak came in, moved her right down the football field. And we're going to look one more time at Elway. And I think it's ever so fortunate that he does have that brace. Jeff Bryant dives over the block of Dave Studdard, collapses the knee, the left knee of John Elway.
We've said it time and time again, the knee was just not designed to play football. When you start pushing it laterally and forward and backwards, something's going to give, something's going to tear, something's going to bend. They are nearly in field goal position right now with the new quarterback in the game. I think you'd want to play it very tight, run the clock, run the football around and up the middle, keep this position.
Draw play. Will Height gets 3 to the 30-yard line. Will Height has been playing hurt all night. Now Elway is on the bench. They continue to look at John Elway's left knee. And Will Height limps off one more time. We'll be back in a moment. John Elway's left ankle and not his knee. And sorry about the ankle, but that's good news to all of us up here in the booth.
Yeah, I think
you'll buy that anytime over a knee.
That's football camouflage. You know, these teams won't tell the truth all the time about the injuries to keep the other guys from getting to them. He took that hit right on the knee.
He looks as though he wants to go back in the game. We don't know whether we'll see him or not. Kubiak is on at the moment. It'll be 2nd down and 7. 2 timeouts remain for the Broncos. I started to say earlier, Kubiak was an 8th-round draft pick the same year Elway was, a 1st-round pick for the Baltimore before he was traded to the Broncos. Haven't heard much about him. We know he's tough. He took quite a beating a year ago against the Bears. Hung in there. And Sewell is piled up for a loss of a yard or 2. And it's going to be 3rd down, long yardage, the ball near the 32-yard line. And Carlos, you have to wonder, as Carlos has only had 2 50-yard field goals in his career. And we're looking at potentially about a 49-yard effort.
Hey, the safest play I could come up with now if I was coaching this team and playing quarterback, of course not me playing, would be a quarterback draw. I'm talking quarterback draw right now. It's not going to lose any yardage, and you get back upfield, or else some kind of run and play anyway, not to lose yardage. Kubiak hasn't been playing this entire game. He's cold. I would not allow him to throw a pass at this point. It wouldn't be fair to him or the team. Right now, you try your best not to lose any yardage. You want to gain some yardage. You run your best play.
I agree, Joe. And Carlos, as long as may just be 50 yards, but he'll never find better conditions than this to kick a 40-something yard field goal.
Absolutely dead solid perfect. They are working on Elway's ankle, so that is a relief. We don't know whether we'll see him if we go into overtime, but meanwhile, the man on the spot is Rich Carlos. 3rd down and about 9. Ball is at the 32-yard line of the Seahawks. The 4 wide receivers are in, which would indicate pass, and indeed Kubiak is in the shotgun. Quarterback draw, and Kubiak stays on his feet down to the 26-yard line.
Now, if I had to run the play myself, I'd have been a little quicker. Well, another 6 or 7 yards.
Yeah, with your knees, I'm sure you'd have made it to at least the 10-yard line.
But that was a smart call. Again, he didn't take a chance of losing yardage.
It'll be about a 42-yard attempt, depending upon what they allow, usually 6.5, 7 yards.
And that also forced Seattle to take their last time out, which is very important at this stage of the game.
Our telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the National Football League is prohibited. We have 1 minute remaining in the game.
And while we got a little time, I want to congratulate and wish our best, I guess, to a couple of Seahawks. Charles Young, who is retiring after 13 years in this league. And I love those offensive linemen, but I love those offensive coaches. Ray Pacheska, he's retiring after 40 years of coaching, and he's done an excellent job with this offensive line, as well as in the past with the Buffalo Bills and the LA Rams, St. Louis. He's coached some great players in his day also.
I had the pleasure of working with both of those guys. The 1 year I spent with the Rams. Charlie Young is certainly, he's a player's guy too. You know, the teammates love him. He's worked hard over the years. And Ray Pacheska, hey, what can you say? The man's been around a long time. He's a good friend of Chuck Knox because he's a good coach to start with.
Carlos can win this, it would seem. The Seahawks have no more timeouts. It will be a 43-yard attempt. The holder is Kubiak. Keith Bishop, a good long snapper. He missed earlier from 34. Looking good, and it is good.
All right.
Rich Carlos, who missed from 34 earlier, hits from 43 yards, and the Broncos, with 55 seconds remaining, have taken the lead one more time.
That was a bottle of soda pop, wasn't it, Joe?
And John Elway, one would have to speculate, should the Broncos go on to get into the playoffs, would be able to go. You think he wasn't relieved? Rich Carlos. Had to wait a while, had some height on that one.
I can do it, Coach.
Well, kickers are something, aren't they?
Hey, and one of the all-time greats that played with this Denver team, I know he would have loved to be in that situation, was Jim Turner. Jim is third, of course, behind Jan Stenerud and George Bland on the all-time list, and we worked together with the Jets. Jim just loved and thrived on these kind of situations. That's the kind of kicker you want, the guy that wants a kick in the tight situation.
I read somewhere where Stenerud was calling it quits now after a fantastic career. If such is the case, I certainly wish him well. He's been a good friend over the years, and what a remarkable career. Remind you once again, the Denver victory tonight does not put them in the playoffs. They are going to need help. They're going to need it. A Cincinnati win over New England or a Cleveland victory over the New York Jets to get them in as a wild card. We'll be going down to Los Angeles after tonight's game to bring you the Raiders and the Rams on Monday night. Carlos bangs one. That's going to leave Seattle in quite a hole. Dean Robinson brings it out, but he only gets out to the 14-yard line. Again, the situation we spoke of a moment ago. The Broncos with a victory tonight, and it looks fairly comfortable at the moment. They are still going to need help. The defending champions of the Western Division of the AFC, at 13-3 a year ago, can get back into the playoffs if Cincinnati can win or if Cleveland can win over New England or the Jets. Craig from the shotgun, high snap. And Craig had to get rid of it. 47 seconds. And of course, there is no more tomorrow for the Seahawks of 85. A loss tonight, and they will finish at 500 for the season. Been an interesting year. Down to the final game, still playoff spots are open. Central Division of the AFC still up for grabs. AFC still up for grabs. We're in the final weekend. That was a fine catch. Aaron Walker, he knew he was going to get pounded, and he still held on to it.
I think that was a fine catch, but it was almost blindfolded. I think he was as surprised as anyone in the stadium that he caught the ball.
That by Dave Craig to stop the clock, which had ticked down to 27 seconds remaining in the game. No timeouts, of course. Our ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Nissan, builders of technologically advanced cars and trucks for over 50 years, and by exceptionally smooth Michelob. Where you're going, it's Michelob. And by De Beers, the name that stands for diamonds. A diamond is forever. And by the U.S. Army, a place to be all you can be.
Well, Joe, they can't mess around with a 5 or 10-yard pass. They got to throw this ball 15, 20 yards downfield easily.
Yeah, there's time's running out. No timeout. Denver will give him this.
Walker again. Walker to the 47-yard line with 21 seconds remaining and another Seattle first down. And Seattle keeps it alive. Norm Johnson, by the way, has not had a good year. And Norm Johnson can kick the ball a considerable distance. One would suspect much farther than Rich Carlos. I would think that he would be in a practical situation even at the some 55 yards out. His career best, Norm Johnson, the Seattle Seahawks place kicker, is 54 yards. His best this year is 51. Craig knocked away by Mike Harden. He could have perhaps intercepted that, but he was making certain that that pass did not get to Largent. And there's Norm Johnson. Had a tremendous year a year ago, was the Pro Bowl kicker in the AFC. 14 seconds. Seattle has no timeouts.
Which would indicate they really have to try to even possibly think about throwing the ball to the end zone. Hopefully there was a penalty that will stop the clock, or the guy will come up with a catch.
Either that. They either
can't stop the clock.
Or get one to the sidelines and get it out of bounds. If they catch anything over the middle, the clock's going to run out. But if they get the ball going out of bounds, they can save it and maybe try the field goal.
They need realistically to pick up about 15 yards and kill the clock at the same time. Randall Morris. There might have been an opportunity had Morris been able to hold on. 9 seconds now remaining.
I've seen more drop passes in this game tonight than I've seen in any game this season.
Well, if he would have caught this ball, you still would be looking at roughly a 55-yard field goal. Not that that's impossible under these conditions. It's indoor stadium.
Yeah, well, they have another play left anyway. It wouldn't be 55 if they completed a 5-yard, 10-yard pass the next play out of bounds. So many drop passes tonight. What is it, lack of concentration or just bad hands?
3rd and long, 3rd and 10. 9 seconds remaining. Down the sidelines goes Eric Lane. And there will be an opportunity for Norm Johnson. The ball is marked at the 37-yard line. It will be a field goal attempt of over 50 yards.
They've changed it to about.
They have. They moved it to the 35-yard line. So we're looking at a 53-yard field goal attempt. Certainly he's capable of making it. It officially will be 52 because it is inside the 53-yard marker. No, it was so close. Many of the fans thought it went through. Johnson missed by about a foot as time ran out on Seattle. And Denver, they have more lives than a cat. They stay alive. Well-played football game. A fun football game. A typical Denver football game. And a typical John Elway night, only in that he also provided a 400-yard game tonight. And how close can you get? Season ends for the Seattle Seahawks. Denver Broncos will await the play over the weekend in the AFC East. Hit the goalpost. And they'll be looking back at that for a long time to come should Denver get in the playoffs and advance. The island of Oahu, with its familiar landmark Diamond Head, is today much as it is year-round, an exotic paradise for fun, play, and relaxation. And here in Hawaii for the past week, 84 of the NFL's finest players have been gathered for today's annual AFC-NFC Pro Bowl. The Raiders' Marcus Allen is one of them.
Say hello to your mothers out there. Come on. Say hello to your mother. Yeah, I don't like you either.
While Allen worked the beast this past season, he worked NFL defenses for a league-leading 1,759 yards. Allen's grace and fluidity of movement is more than offset by one of the NFC's quarterbacks, Jim McMahon. McMahon, who has turned the headband into a fashion rage more widespread than the wide-shouldered look, is the Chicago Bears' down-in-the-dirt working man's quarterback and he led his team to a 46-10 victory over New England 1 week ago today in Super Bowl 20. Welcome to Aloha Stadium in Honolulu, where today we'll watch the 16th AFC-NFC